Hey, hi, hello, welcome to the show. Is it just me or does Magneto kind of look like a giant ding-dong? Wait, I should probably introduce myself first. My name is Dan, and I love superhero and villain character design. As a person who is passionate about this topic, I'm bound to have strong opinions on what I read in comics and what I play in video games. That being said, I've always hated the way Magneto looks. Magneto is one of the most reliable vanguards in Marvel Rivals. He also happens to be one of the most reliable and complex characters in all of Marvel lore. Sometimes he's a villain, other times he's a hero, but either way, he's a master of magnetism with a penchant for using that power. I love him as a character, but I have always hated his design. There's just something about the shape of his helmet and his color scheme that has always bothered me. He looks like a giant piece of throbbing man meat, and his helmet gives him a silhouette of a bell end. So today, I'm going to go over at least one version of Magneto's design from every decade of his existence to see if he's always looked like a giant cock. Smash like, pump the subs, and eviscerate that comment section. If we look at his Marvel Rivals base design, we can see his colorization centers around metallic silvers and deep red accents. Keep this design in mind as we go through the evolution that got us here. One thing you may notice is atop his dome piece lies that helmet that I dislike so very much. To me, it looks silly, but I know to most comic book fans, it's just par for the course as far as Mag's design is concerned. Other than the helmet, Magneto here is fully armored with gigantic 90s style shoulder pads. Magneto looks extremely tanky and intimidating, no doubt. But I will never get used to this helmet. There are other designs of his that don't involve the headdress, but this phallic silhouette seems to be the default that Marvel designers revert back to all the time. All roads seemingly lead back to Club Pen 15. Magneto was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1963 for issue 1 of the Uncanny X-Men. In this issue, we meet the entire team for the first time. Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, Jean Grey, Angel, and Charles Xavier make up the first roster of the X-Gene having crime fighters. In this issue, we also meet the big bad of the series, Magneto. He can be found in a room all by himself, openly narrating about his powers and how he plans to use them. You see, he wants to take over this military base, or whatever, and he does so in his original costume. His first color scheme was red with purple accents. One thing you may notice from looking at this design are the devil-like horns on top of his helmet. To me, these horns make all the difference. They're the difference between a smooth mushroom tip and, well, not that. This first design, in my opinion, is better than the future treatments that artists would give this character. However, in my opinion, it's still not that great. Rather than looking like a regular dick, he looks like a devil dick. The rest of his armor is very standard fare too. He's got this neck armor thing going on, and the gloves and boots are all matching the underwear that he's wearing over top of his full body leotard. In this one panel, it looks like old Jack Kirby forgot to draw the horns on the helmet. This is our first official look at what his silhouette would eventually turn into. On the cover of issue number 4, the horns have been turned into more like a hood ornament type thing, with the color now being painted purple. Much more dickish. By the cover of issue 18, the horns have been officially downgraded into a purple symbol in the middle of Mag's helmet, giving him a very phallic silhouette. It's so dick-like, in fact, to me, it almost seems like an intentional, sneaky design choice. Yet, in the book, the points of the symbol still protrude from the helmet. Magneto's design was inconsistent at best when he was first introduced to Marvel lore. So let's just jump an entire decade to see if things improve a little bit. 1970, Fantastic Four 102. Things did not improve. I would argue things got even worse. The eye opening on his mask is now gaping, leaving his full face exposed. It seems to me that they knew they needed to fix the helmet, they just didn't know exactly what to do yet. Stan and Jack are still on the character, and they seem more confused than ever. Even Magneto's suit has undergone a strange redesign here. For some reason, now it's purple and blue with these weird hoses running down his arm. When they draw him in this posture, along with this bunk costume, Magneto comes across impotent. And I use that word deliberately here for this context, although I'd still use that word even if he wasn't so penis-shaped. The horns now come across like a gift bow, making him look like a Valentine's Day package from Adam and Eve. I don't have my discount code yet. Magneto is lucky that he's a well-written, fully developed, three-dimensional character. Otherwise, there's no way he'd survive this borderline X-rated design. 1982, X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills, written by Chris Claremont with art by Brent Anderson. In this insanely good book, Magneto is drawn without the helmet, and he's all the better for it. Other than the helmet, not much changes here as far as the design is concerned. This book is 100% must-read material though. From what I can tell, Magneto's Big M costume debuts on the cover of issue 200 of Uncanny X-Men. I could be a little bit off by its debut, but this is the first time that I've come across it. This issue came out in 1985 and was written again by Chris Claremont with art by John Romita Jr. and Dan Green. This costume is Magneto's superior outfit by a galactic mile, and there's no comparison really. The only improvement to the design would come a little bit later when the X-Team decides to let Mag grow his hair out a little bit. The magenta color works so much for the master of magnetism. And that giant M that takes up his entire torso? Well, I think that that's just a cool interpretation of superhero iconography. Having that M follow the contours of his chest and tank top make him just seem so much bigger and stronger. In issue 1 of the brand new X-Men series, Magneto has his standard uniform, and unfortunately, it's the dick one. Jim Lee draws Magneto with so much presence and detail that it almost makes up for it though. Almost. By the time the 90s roll around, this costume was already so iconic that all it really needed was to be finalized by Jim. The horns on the helmet are firmly a crest now. The piece of armor worn around the neck is apparently called a gorget, and Jim makes it look like the centerpiece of the entire outfit. With all these improvements to Magneto's silhouette, the shape communication is still very phallic. I mean, with as much exposed female skin as there is in these books, the least they could do to balance the scales is make the big bad literally an evil dick. The more of these Magneto designs that I look at as I prepare this video, the more intentional this silhouette seems. The introduction of his character in this book is Sans helmet, and I'm telling you, this design is so much better. When we see his face, we get a much better gauge on how threatening his personality is. It's almost a shock to see how much of a silver fox he is compared to his counterpart, Professor Xavier. The professor is a bald man, and even he comes across less phallically. I'd worry that I'm seeing something that's not there, but compared to every other character in these books, Magneto is the only one with a helmet like this. Well, other than Nova. That dude's definitely also wiener coated. In 1992, we get maybe his most well-known adaptation, that being for the X-Men animated series. Much like all other characters in this show, Magneto's design stayed pretty true to the Jim Lee designs from the comics. This is one of the times I wish they didn't. I genuinely hate this helmet. It irritates me that they revert back to it when he looks like so much more of an interesting character without it. I understand the narrative function of the helmet. It's meant to block mental attacks and prying telepaths. But this is comic books, bro. Did we really have to make his defensive gear that stupid looking? I know that this company can design cool masks, cowls, and headdresses. They've been doing it for decades and have made billions of dollars in the process. For every Captain America, I guess there's gotta be a Magneto. While I may not be the biggest Cap fan, I have to admit, those little head wings of his are some of the best details in the history of superhero character design. Bouncing over to 1997 for Uncanny X-Men 350. Okay, cool. Still a wang. 1999, Magneto Rex 1. Here, drawn without his helmet. Sure, but I am not loving whatever his hair is here. In this 2-page spread, Magneto is shown holding his helmet, but never once does he wear it. Okay, steps in the right direction. The year 2000, X-Men The Hidden Years 4 by John Byrne and Tom Palmer. This is my least favorite version so far. Not only does Mag have his helmet, but I hate how his neck armor thing is all space age and high tech now. And what's that I see on his arms? God damn it, the stupid ass arm hoses are back. What are these arm hoses? Comment down below if you know what these arm hoses are. There can't be an in-universe explanation to the arm hoses like there are for the helmet, can there? This is apparently a story that happens during the way back years of the X-Men when Beast was still a human and Jean Grey was Marvel Girl. So please, Tell me why this looks like a design for Magneto 2099. John Byrne, man, you're out to lunch on this one. He's even got this comical jetpack. Simply awful. Let's see if things improve in 2010 for Uncanny X-Men 521, written by Matt Fraction with art by Greg Land. Nah, unfortunately, not at all. But now his head crest has been promoted to hood ornament again. That's cool. I'm gonna have to reach a stage of acceptance with this helmet, aren't I? It's been 50 years at this point in our timeline, and Marvel seems pretty set in Magneto's phallic silhouette. Maybe things will change when they give him his solo book in 2012 called Magneto, Not a Hero. What was I thinking? Of course not. Why can't we just be using the big M design? It's clearly the cooler one. Oh well. Whatever. 2013, All New X-Men 1 by big boy Brian Michael Bendis with art by Stuart Inneman. Much like everything I've covered in this video so far, I like the art in this book. It's very cool. The figure work, the poses, the composition, everything looks great. Everything that is, except for Magneto's helmet. It's not growing on me no matter how many times I see it. At this point, I'd be happy with a meager recoloring of it. I understand I may be offending people with this take, but Magneto's design with this helmet on is D tier at best. Take the helmet off, and we're dealing with an upgrade of at least 3 tier ranks. In 2016, we get a reboot of Uncanny X-Men, starting right back at issue 1. In this book, I may have gotten what I wished for. On the cover of it, we see a brand new costume for Magneto. Hurrah! I like the recoloring and all, but is it just me or is it even more wang-coded now? The sleek racing stripes make it kind of seem like he's in an advertisement for Magnum rubbers. I like the redesign fine enough, but it just falls a little bit short for me. Your mileage may vary. We're going to skip 4 years now, okay, to the year 2020 for an X-Men Fantastic Four crossover title. In this book, my wish gets granted again, another recoloring. We can tell he's a good guy here because he's got an X-Men X on his belt. The costume is now all white, and it's making him look pretty virtuous and heroic. I like the use of the color white when he's portraying a proper protagonist. Magneto is one of those characters that splits audience opinion, and I'm sure my take on his helmet is going to have that same effect. I understand if you like the helmet. It has been around for 3/4 of a century at this point, for crying out loud. I've just never been partial to it, and it happens to look like a male reproductive organ. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. That's cool. In 2023, Magneto got another solo book, and in it, he sports all of his looks all at the same time. Well, at least on the cover. And I think this cover is supposed to feel nostalgic and modern at the same time, but to me, it just looks like they didn't know what to do, so they just opted to do everything all at the same time. I appreciate how this piece tries to honor Magneto's history, but it's just so clunky in its execution. Inside the book, I'm happy to report they decided to go with the big M, but I'm saddened to tell you that they also included the helmet. The helmet is iconic and recognizable, sure, and I know that that means that it's a strong design. Absolutely. It stood the test of time regardless of my disdain for it. I understand at this point it's too much a part of his identity to fully get rid of it, but that's just why I actually love what Marvel Rivals is doing right now. In Rivals, sure, the base skin includes the silver version of the helmet, but almost every time he gets a skin drop, it rarely includes a helmet, unless it's a direct color swap of the base skin. King Magnus over here is an adaptation of his look from House of M number 6, and I'm a huge fan. The Trial of Magneto is a version of Big M, and it confirms that its first appearance was in that issue I showed earlier, Uncanny X-Men 200 from 1985. Temporal Tyrant is a Marvel Rivals exclusive. It's good to see that they're out there in the kitchen cooking too. All of these helmetless skins are so much better than their helmeted counterparts. I will say, however, Marvel Rivals' take on Mag's traditional costume may actually be peak. Just the simple addition of making the points of the M protrude a little bit at the top of the helmet gives him such a better silhouette. The way his hair pokes out at the back also addresses the issue that I've always had with the design. So yeah, to answer the question at the top, Magneto has always looked like a wiener, but Marvel Rivals has finally fixed him 63 years later. Can future artists who work on the character please follow this template? Well, Magneto has appeared in a comic since his 2024 inclusion in Marvel Rivals, and it was in the 2025 limited run of Rogue: Savage Land. I will take any opportunity I can to talk about this book. When Magneto first joins Rogue on the island, he's in full regalia. Moments after arriving, in true Savage Land fashion, All of his clothes are torn and tattered, leaving him to look like this. He goes to bed with everything torn to bits, but when he wakes up, apparently he's visited by tailor fairies because his clothes are magically all mended. Magneto looks so out of place in the Savage Land, dressed like this. I think the artist should have given him the rogue treatment with his costume and left it all torn up. But alas, it was not to be. And with that, I Hate Jeffers, that brings us to today. Since the comics did not use Rival's interpretation of his design, I can confidently say Magneto has always been a dick. Thanks for watching or whatever.